The early 60s were marked by two of America's most glamorous icons. Marilyn Monroe, Hollywood's greatest sex symbol, and First Lady Jackie Kennedy. But they rivaled each other for more than fame and fought for the love of one man, President John F. Kennedy. Their remarkable love triangle ultimately ended in tragedy. On the 19th of May 1962 at Madison Square Gardens, New York, Marilyn Monroe serenaded the President of the United States in front of 40 million people.
Mr. President, the late Marilyn Monroe.
Marilyn Monroe had in fact been having an affair behind Jackie Kennedy's back for 8 years and was convinced that the President would one day leave his wife for her.
She always talked about marrying Jack. She wanted to be First Lady. She thought that was a possibility. I said, Marilyn, that's not a possibility. I mean, this is not going to happen. Oh, you don't know, what do you know? You go, well, whatever. But, yeah, she thought that he would marry her. She thought that he would leave Jackie and marry her and make her First Lady.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, Mr. President. Happy birthday to you.
Jackie Kennedy knew of the affair, but rather than witness Marilyn's performance for Jack's 45th birthday, she decided to go horse riding.
By Jackie's absence from Madison Square Garden, we can tell that Jackie was a very, very astute wife who knew exactly what was going on and knew when to keep away and knew that she didn't want to be publicly embarrassed, and so erased the whole thing from her vision.
That night, Marilyn Monroe was escorted by Secret Service agents to the Carlyle Hotel in New York to celebrate with her presidential lover. But the actress had little idea that it was to be the last time that she'd ever see him.
If people who had seen this event at the time, if they really understood the full impetus, I think JFK would have been drummed out of the White House then and there.
Marilyn's flamboyant performance was too much for the president. And shortly after his birthday party, she was told that their affair was over.
Oh, she got really upset. She was crying because of the way he did it. She couldn't be on the phone and say, well, why, Jack? Why are you doing this? Why are you doing this? She couldn't get that closure. So she went ape. She was going around like a cuckoo. I thought she was going to tear the house apart.
The rivalry between Marilyn Monroe and Jacqueline Kennedy began at a Beverly Hills dinner party in 1951. The beautiful actress who'd recently starred in Gentlemen Prefer Blondes was an enticing dinner companion for Jack Kennedy. But in May of the same year, he met another woman at a society gathering. The attractive Jacqueline Bouvier was a well-educated debutante. The ambitious young senator was interested in both women, but really only had one option.
He needed a highly intelligent, very photogenic wife, at least, who had never been married, and who had these outstanding social characteristics that Jackie had. She had been debutante of the year, she had gone to the Sorbonne, she was college educated, she was very bright, and so I think it was almost for him a step upward.
Marilyn Monroe lost Jack Kennedy to Jacqueline Bouvier. The actress's background was a world away from Jackie's. Marilyn spent much of her underprivileged childhood in foster homes.
This was a woman with a desolate, sadly desolate upbringing. She really didn't know who her father was. Her mother had mental problems and exploded at some point in Monroe's childhood and was carted off to the lunatic asylum and spent much of the rest, although not all, much of the rest of her life there.
But despite her privileged upbringing, the young Jacqueline Bouvier also had a troubled relationship with her parents. Her father was a notorious womanizer, which eventually led to the collapse of his marriage.
He fooled around with a lot of girls. He abandoned his wife, and he would take beautiful women off for parties and whatnot.
But Jackie loved her father despite his indiscretions.
She took her father's side, and she got irritated by her mother.
She definitely knew what her father was, a womanizer, and I think, yes, indeed, that played a large role in her choice of a man. I think she was always attracted to dangerous men.
Jack Kennedy became Jacqueline Bouvier's husband and quickly saw his status rise beyond the political scene.
He suddenly found himself no longer just on the political pages of the Boston Globe and the Washington Post and the New York Times, but on the social pages as well, because she had that social cachet.
But Jackie's marriage was not what it seemed. Her new husband came at a cost.
Jack Kennedy turned out to be not a very good husband for her, because he always had his eye out for another woman.
Before long, Jackie had had enough of Jack Kennedy's behavior. It was reported in Time magazine that her marriage was only saved when her father-in-law Joe Kennedy offered her a substantial incentive to stay with his ambitious son.
People told me that back in the mid-1950s, when their marriage really became rocky, that she did consider leaving him. And I'm quite certain that it's true that Joe Kennedy, Jack Kennedy's father, offered her a substantial amount of money. Some people say it was $1 million to stay in the marriage.
If Jackie Kennedy had an Achilles heel, it was certainly her need and love of money, and certainly had a lot to do with her desire to be with John F. Kennedy.
Jackie's marriage to an aspiring politician gave her some measure of fame, but it was nothing compared to Marilyn Monroe's. She'd turned a modeling career into Hollywood screen success, and her appearance in Niagara in 1953 had elevated her to screen goddess.
Marilyn was never anything but a sex pot. She just oozed sex, and she knew that. It was the moment she put her makeup on, she became Marilyn Monroe. The voice and the walk and the clothes. It was her whole persona.
By 1954, Marilyn was married to baseball god Joe DiMaggio. But at a Beverly Hills showbiz party, she met Jack Kennedy for the second time. This time, Jack found her irresistible. And despite her marriage to Joe DiMaggio, Marilyn was also interested in Jack.
At the party, one of the outstanding persons for her to meet was Jack Kennedy, who then was a senator. Before the party was over, Jack Kennedy had Marilyn's name and phone number.
It wasn't long before Marilyn was bragging to a close friend that she was having an affair with Jack.
One day, she knocked on my door and she said, "Guess who I met?" And I go, I don't know. She said, "Jack Kennedy." And I said, "Marilyn, this guy's married." She says, "I don't care."
She would get sort of these secret phone calls, and she would giggle and laugh and then sort of whisper it was Jack Kennedy. And I didn't think he was calling to get diplomacy or speaking to her about foreign affairs. So she was pretty tickled.
Marilyn's marriage to Joe DiMaggio was over in 9 months. And she threw herself into the affair with Jack Kennedy with the help of Jack's brother-in-law, actor Peter Lawford. Marilyn seemed to be the woman of Jack's fantasies.
There was a big, big party at Peter Lawford's beach house, and we were all there. There was a lot of hanky-panky going on, definitely. I mean, Jack was a strange man. He even wanted to have a threesome with Marilyn and me. And I said, "What?" And she said, well, I was in the shower and she was telling me this. She said, "Yeah, he says we should think of doing it for our country. And I go, our country. And, and that was the end of that.
By 1960, the ambitious Jack Kennedy was running for president, but that didn't put an end to the love triangle. In the second week of July, he left a heavily pregnant Jackie at home while he attended the Democratic Convention in Los Angeles. What she didn't know was that Jack spent 2 nights at Peter Lawford's beach house with Marilyn. Marilyn Monroe had fallen head over heels for Jack Kennedy, and with talk of the presidency, had started to dream that one day she might become America's First Lady.